Man, welcome back. Welcome back to your boy. It's the one and only Tony Tone. And tonight, welcome to the Pull Up Podcast Show. I tell you, one of the fastest sports growing podcasts in the country right now. I appreciate you for tuning in tonight. We've got a guest tonight, hailing from our back door out of the Midwest, from the Detroit, as it well known. And we're going to talk a little bit about sports, the HBCU world, a little bit about everything. But before we do that, Val, you know what to do. Drop it.
It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. Pull up, pull up. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. Pull up, pull up. Bounce the voice and Coach Tony, you know. It's the Pull Up Podcast. Show. I said bounce the voice and Coach Tony, you know. It's the Pull Up Podcast. Show.
Welcome back to the Pull Up Podcast Show, and your guy, the hostess with the mostest, it's your guy, Coach Tony. Tonight, please make sure that you like us, you share, and more importantly, subscribe to the show. Tonight, coming to us again from the city of Detroit, one of Detroit's own. You're going to love what she's been doing with her career. It's great, you know, as we celebrate and close out the month of celebrating women in sports. This young lady exemplifies what it means to carry her career on to the next level. And it's just been phenomenal to see the things that she's done, especially from where she started as she moved on. We're going to talk about her career playing basketball. We're going to talk about the love of sports and how she got into the administration side. And more importantly, she's at an HBCU. Yes, Claflin University. We're going to talk about that. She is the Associate Athletic Director. She is also the Associate Director of Compliance. As you know, we're going to bring out my girl, Miss Dionne McCollum. Please welcome to the show. Coach, what's going on?
How you doing?
Welcome. Thank you for pulling up, as we say, on the Pull Up Podcast Show. So it's been absolutely wonderful. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good.
Well, I appreciate, you know, we I don't know if you know or not, we're celebrating the month of women in sports, and it's great because I've got you on our closeout show for the month before we head into April. So I definitely appreciate it. We got a lot of stuff to talk about and cover and go over and all that. And I just appreciate your time tonight.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
You know, now I know that a lot of, make sure I guess know we coming from the city of the D. You know, hey, that Detroit, baby, and they don't know it's right across.
Both towns, what it is.
Hey, and for those that don't know, it's right across the lake from me here in Lake Michigan, across on the other side. And if I go up in the Sears Tower or the Hancock on a good day, I can see over the lake.
Beautiful Midwest.
Man, beautiful. Come in and let's let the fans know a little bit about your background coming up in Detroit, you know, what high school you went to and kind of the background and jumping off into the basketball, because you played basketball in high school as well, correct?
Yes, sir. So from Detroit, I went to Southfield High School. I grew up on the west side of Detroit. Me, my brother, and my mom. In Southfield High School, graduated in 2001. I played basketball there all 4 years, but had been in Southfield School since third grade. But yeah, that was it. From there, got mono as a junior in high school, lost a whole lot of offers. Ended up going to junior college at Wayne County Community College. Absolutely amazing experience at the JUCO level when you walk into a gym of girls you know that are hoopers. And that's your team. It's something I was unaware of, but JUCO changed my life. From there, I went to Kentucky State, played 2 years there, and graduated from there. And that was my basketball career before I jumped into the coaching side.
Oh, wow. You know, let's go back what you just said a moment ago, because I think that we are about to see a resurgence of the JUCO. And I know as I was coming up in the late 80s, early 90s, Dave, myself back in the day, you know, JUCOs was big, Coach, you know, at that particular time. You know, if you came out and, you know, we talking about San Jacinto down there with Grandmama and all them boys came out of Texas. We talking about all the JUCOs coming up out of Florida, obviously now with Tennessee. Do you see the change in the game now with things that are going on? Do you see the resurgence of the junior college?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because coaches are looking for experience. And with the COVID year and everybody getting that fifth year and men being in grad school and being in grad school, you're looking at 22, 23, Oakland University, 24 years old compared to a kid coming out of high school. So you're talking about a grown man compared to a young baby. They're going to go that JUCO route to try to find that more experience and more talent that can compete at that higher level. So you're looking at coaches, even the kids that drop down. I may go D1 or D2 and go to JUCO year for 1 year, but hey, that kid was at Eastern Michigan, Western Michigan. Let me get him at this D2 because he's a D1 level athlete. But because of that portal and because of the experience, JUCO is maybe one of the top recruiters right now for college coaches.
Oh yeah, and it's amazing. And just going back, rewinding that tape back in 2001, as you got an opportunity to go, you're there at Wayne Community, and you coming up to Wayne Community, and like I say, you walk in that gymnasium, and you got that because it's funny, Coach, because I've literally had conversations, and I'm sure you have too, with parents that's literally looked me in my eye and said, "Man, my child will never go junior college," and then a year later, the child's at a junior college, And I try to tell them, I said, especially now looking today, the most difficult opponent that these young kids have got is basically the portal. It ain't even pretty much an athlete. It's the portal. Mm-hmm. And because of, like you said, these kids are now making moves and doing, getting out from one school to the next. And now the coaches are saying, hey, I'd rather take this knucklehead. I know he's a knucklehead. Mm-hmm. But he's an experienced knucklehead, and he understands how we're going to play. Plus, he understands I'm only going to give him 1 year. This may be the only year I need him, and I may be used as one kid, and that 1 year gives me a championship. Did you kind of embellish that or see that as you were coming to Wayne?
Back then I didn't, because back then it was just opportunity and a chance. A lot of us, like I said, I got sick and lost offers. Some of us in Detroit, you get them exposure. So Wayne County gave us a chance to have exposure. So we took upon ourselves. Our motto was, we're better than UConn. That's when UConn had them runs. But that was our motto because we were going to get out of there. And that's how I got recruited. I was number 3 in the country in steals. So I started getting calls off of just being ranked and my name being there, and then that gave other teammates opportunity because coaches were looking, Right. So at that point, we were just trying to get out Detroit and go experience something outside the city and using basketball as our tool to get there. And we ended up having amazing coaches that we still talk to today. My teammates still talk, so I think that was the family I was looking for. And it was the family that I needed at that time. And I didn't even know because who knew what JUCO was? So right. Now being a JUCO product is about changing the mindset. These kids are not there because of grades. They're not there because they just weren't good enough. No, they're there because they're 18, 19 kind of high school. And unless you are the stud of the stud, you may not be getting those looks because they want that experienced player.
Exactly. And I've seen it even worse than that, Coach. I've seen some kids that have been on the ranked list that have been in a situation where the phones are not just ringing for them, but they've had to go that JUCO route. And as you just mentioned, it becomes very difficult because, everyone's, saying, oh, man, I'm the man and I'm this and I'm that. And I kind of laugh, when I look at now the world of as they've changed the name over the years. When I was first getting started, it was AAU, and now it's changed to travel basketball since Condoleezza Rice have taken over for the NCAA. And I remember, my earlier years back in 2004, 2005, as you was making that transition yourself, it was kind of funny because, the recruits was being there. We've been able to play on major college campuses, and then the NCAA changed that rule. So when you're looking at, like you said, and you're looking at that JUCO and the product, and you guys just want to hoop, looking at those relationships you built, how many of your teammates went on to major colleges and do big things?
Majority of my class went on. They went on, rather it was NAIA, some went to D2. I actually became rivals with 2 of my closest teammates because I'm at Kentucky State and they were at Central State, So some went to North Carolina. We all had that opportunity and it was amazing to see because a lot of us didn't play AAU. So even though AAU was huge, not all of us could afford that, So,
correct.
You know, why? And then even in Detroit, we had PAL for girls. We didn't have all that when we first started. So AAU was still coming around, you know, as we were coming up. And, you know, I stuck with PAL. That's what worked for me and my family. So a lot of my teammates didn't play AAU either. You know, so y'all were just dogs in high school, you know, so, and that's kind of, we got together and made our own name.
Exactly right. And for those that don't, the PAL League stand for the Police Athletic League. So they, you know, just put it on stamp. You know, Chicago had ours as well. And again, you know, being in the city, as we were coming through, so you got to remember, you know, we were South Side versus West Side, basically. You know, we really didn't worry about the ball players on the North Side, and pretty much throughout the summer. You know, and Detroit had that same feel for it, you know, and doing all that. So now you get that opportunity. You at Wayne, you make a move, you get down to Kentucky State. Love that. So now that gives you your first glimpse of HBCU. How was Kentucky State?
Oh, I love Kentucky State. It was a difficult situation because I may have not had the coach I had just had at my JUCO. I think I was expecting that same level, but again, my teammates, I can't deny. We were just talking about getting back together and coming back to our first homecoming together. You know, we're posting memories on Facebook. Like, man, this time was amazing, but it was also kind of sad sometimes because we didn't have the support that we needed. So I cherish those friendships because, you know, without Kentucky State, I wouldn't have them. But those are my sisters. They're the ones that showed up when my father passed. They pulled up on a funeral, you know, from Ohio. And then when my teammate's father passed, me and my mom drove to Ohio for her, you know. So it's the bond you connect. It's the sisterhood, you know, and no matter what our record was, because we struggled, you know, it was much talent as we had a bunch of stars. And we never learned how to gel to win those games. Everybody was ranked here and there. You know, our bond is something that you can't take away. And that HBCU feel is something you can't get on just most campuses.
Oh, I already know. We're talking to my girl, Coach Dionne McCollum of the Claflin University. Johnny Pratt, what's up, baby? I see you checking in tonight. See a couple of people checking in tonight. Cassandra told me to tell you hello. Checking in tonight, Coach, as well. We on the Pull Up Podcast show with your guy, the one and only Coach Tony. Make sure you like and subscribe to the show as we're talking about everything from HBCU world on in. So, you know, so looking at that, Coach, you said something very important to me, you know, that I caught on to. A lot of people think that you got to graduate and you got to go to these major big schools to really grasp that opportunity to have that family environment and all that. And they always knock the JUCO route. And I'm glad you mentioned the NAI. And that's why I wanted to talk to you a lot on the show tonight, because we forget that that I think it's 2.5%, 3% that may go on, as you mentioned, to those major programs if they got it. But 96 to 97% of the kids are playing NAIA, JUCO, and D3 basketball. And that's men and women and all that. And when you saw that and the opportunity to come, were you more happy to say, hey, I'm going to go to Wayne over here, I'm about to kill him, I'm about to hoop? Or were you kind of like, man, I got to go turn this JUCO? Because I see the thought process with these young kids a little bit different ways. Once again, had a parent pull up on me and say, no, my child will never go that direction. And then a year later, the child will end up that direction.
Right. No, I think I was more kind of down because I had these offers and I was like, how did I lose all these offers? The good thing is my mother was always going to support whatever I did. She's like, let's just go check it out. You know, and while I was nervous and hesitant and you got all these thoughts in your head, like, am I a failure? Am I not good enough? You know, it was like you walk in the gym and it's like, oh, there go Shay, there go Tiff, there go Nikki. Like these girls I know that can ball, like, and they here? Okay, let me reevaluate. Let me reevaluate what I was thinking, because now it's other girls that I'm like, I know I'm better than her. Let's hoop up, ball up, let's go. You know, and some of them girls didn't last, but the ones that, you know, we were sitting around like how are you at a JUCO? But guess what? We got to play these girls, and this JUCO team gonna be UConn. Like, put us up there. We were cocky. We were a cocky team. Like,
Hey, you from the D, I expect nothing less. Like your girl Tiff Riggins checking in. Tiff say, "What's going on, Sorrow?"
Hey,
And
Sarah, how you doing?
so that's good. Way to check in on all that. Yeah, we it's no way in the world you coming out of Chicago, coming out of Milwaukee, you coming out of the D, and you ain't got that tough, gritty grind to you. We are talking to my girl, Coach Dionne McCollum, Claflin University. We're going to stop for a second. We're going to break to a commercial, but we'll be right back on the Pull Up Podcast Show.
Are you a small business owner looking to grow? Introducing the KeySpot mobile app. I'm Cynthia McAllister, owner of the IT company Quality SAP. Since 2016, we have been supporting small businesses and help them promote and share their businesses, services, and events across the country. KeySpot is more than just an app. We are a network providing community. KeySpot, connecting communities and supporting small businesses.
Man, welcome back to the Pull Up Podcast Show. We get to quarter number 2 of my girl, Miss Dionne McCollum. So let's take this to, now you're getting that out of Detroit, right? Because I'm like Chicago. I'm recruiting these kids because I'm sure you the same way. Once you found out you can get out the city, they first jet flying, right? They trying to get out and make a move. Now, I've been up on Kentucky State's campus. You way down in Kentucky, girl. It ain't like you sitting down. It ain't like you can get out to the lake or you can make a move nowhere. When you walked on that campus and you coming out of that JUCO, and as you just mentioned a moment ago, it was a little bit different because, at Wayne State, you're close to home, something went wrong, something happened. You can just get out. You right back at the crib for a hot second. Now you find yourself, what's that? About 7, 8 hours away from home.
5 with me driving, 6 with my mom.
Okay. Right. You may be moving. Gotta get there.
It was beautiful actually to me. It was, if you know Detroit, Wayne County was in a quarter of Joy Road and Greenfield. So it wasn't much. You in it. You in it right there, and then you go to Kentucky and it's green and it's trees and it's hilly. It's like, what this city girl gonna do down there, but I fell in love with it, the people you met. And honestly, I think Detroit was one of the biggest represented cities on campus while we were there. We were our own little group. And we had, the Milwaukee group, the Chicago group, the St. Louis group, the Memphis group. But Detroit was probably one of those biggest groups that were there that could. So you still had your family. It still felt like home. If you wanted to get home, it was a close enough drive. If I got homesick, my mom can get to me very, very quick. But it was far enough away where she wouldn't go pop up all the time. And I could still think I was grown, and, in college, So I loved it. I had to get used to the green and gold. My mom was a Spartan, so I grew up in a green and white household. We were anti, that other school. So that gold in that uniform, I think was hard for her to embrace, but it wasn't the same.
What you saying? But hey, you get used to that. Why? And speaking of proud mama, my girl, Miss Deborah Malone Johnson, say proud mama. Hello, girl. So you got the shout outs checking in on you tonight. So now you're sitting at Kentucky State. Now, you and I were talking, and you mentioned about you were thinking about as a major, and now you're sitting at Kentucky State. Great opportunity. I know staff and my guy coaching down there now from Chicago. Shout out to those guys sitting at SICA. And now you're making some moves with them. When did you decide that, when basketball is all said and done, and whether I get the opportunity to make to the WNBA or not, before you took a job, decided that you wanted to work, was there a thought process that came across and said, maybe I'm not done playing. Maybe I'm going to try my luck, maybe go play FIBA basketball, go overseas. Did you ever think about that?
I did. We all had our hoop dreams, and the Detroit Shock was right there. They were absolutely amazing. One of my former JUCO coaches actually left our program to work out in Auburn Hills at the Palace. So we were always had free tickets. We're always there. So of course, that's that dream. Unfortunately, I broke my ankle in multiple places my senior year in college. So that dream didn't fulfill as basketball. But in high school, I was a student athletic trainer. We had a teacher in our school by Miss Jean Washington that was our athletic trainer.
Shout out Miss Washington.
Man, she was like Superwoman. She was at the football games, at basketball games. She was pregnant, pushing a stroller, you know. So, and
she a little bit Miss she was in utility work.
Right, you know. So that kind of made my passion for athletic training. So even at Kentucky State, I was a physical education. I minored in athletic training and worked with our athletic trainers, Walker Tarun, who I still communicate with to this day. And then I went to grad school for athletic training at the University of Findlay in Ohio. And, you know, when I was there, I was also coaching the JV basketball team. So while my love was still basketball, I enjoyed the icky stuff, the MRSAs and the staffs, and I want to see it up close, and the breaks. Like I enjoyed it. I wanted to help fix and put stuff back together, you know.
Plus she was coaching and you sitting there coach. Now, how did, because you not that far removed from school, so the kids are like, were they listening to you? Because they're like, you ain't too much older than me.
Well, Finley was a PWI. I walk in as this strong mouth Detroit Black woman, and y'all are on the JV team, so you're a freshman. So I'm 22. Like, I'm still older than you, and I'm still gonna boss you around, and I probably am very intimidating on top of that. So it was. I got very much respect from everyone on campus. Even when we had to work our different sports, you know, just be authentic. If you're authentic, people respect you no matter your age. So
exactly right, man. I love that. I love that. So now you sitting up there. So now you're like, that's good. I'm about to go on this athletic training side of the house. Now, did you at least take that opportunity to grasp a position at Finley while you were there, or maybe at another school where you started down the athletic training side? Or when did the administration side of saying, you know, I want to go into just athletic department itself, when did the change come about?
No, when I was getting out of grad school, I really sat and said, what do I want to do? Am I going to do athletic training or coaching? And I think I told my mom, I said, whichever one comes first. Like, I scheduled my athletic training exam, and if I get a job coaching, I get a job coaching. So I got a phone call for a job at Pratt Community College to be an assistant coach. My test was that upcoming Friday. I said, whichever one come first. We moved to Kansas. So I moved to Kansas and got to coach in the Jayhawk. At that time was the biggest JUCO conference for basketball. So it was an honor to go out there. But I coached for over 10 years at the collegiate level entirely. And in my final years, I was coaching at Elizabeth City in North Carolina. And
Elizabeth City, HBCU.
Another HBCU. And as I kind of just sat back and reflected one time, I had some of my girls in there, some of the men's players, a couple of volleyball girls, a bowler that I'm still very close with. And I'm like, is there a different calling? You know, and I think at that point, I felt like maybe God was trying to tell me something. I had been offered a job as an assistant AD in DC the year prior, and I turned it down. I wasn't ready. But then that following year, my head coach had took a job in Nebraska. I was then revisited with a job at Kentucky State, and I went out there. But Elizabeth City, it was my pride and joy. I knew I was leaving coaching at that point. I knew I was going to take a job in administration. So I stayed on to make sure they were okay, to make sure that they had their stuff ordered, to make sure the right assistant coach was hired. And I think Tiffany Tucker came in, and Tiffany Tucker is a rock star now in the world of athletics. So, you know, to have been a part of that journey, you know, was everything for me. But I made that jump to administration. I moved home for 1 year and then moved to DC as the associate AD for athletics for DC Public Schools. And that's how I started administration.
That's amazing, because I was going to ask you, along the way, did you have that one, or maybe two, did you have that one coach or that one administration person that you said, like you said, that the teacher that you wrapped your arms around earlier, you know, kind of was out there? Did you see someone that said, you looked and said, I like what they're doing, man, one day I aspire to be just like that?
So when I was coaching, that person was Coach Curtis Jones. He was my JUCO coach. That he showed me what a coach is supposed to be. You know, he showed me how athletes are supposed to be treated, how you can push them, but still loving them in the same sense. And when, of course, we know Vivian Stringer, she's like, she is the Black epitome coach that you want to be as a woman. And when I met her in person, I was kind of in awe. I definitely had a fan out moment. But I got into administration. It was Dorita Ratcliffe. She was my athletic director at Kentucky State. She came in my senior year. She was the first Black woman I saw in that role up close, and she was my AD. So I'm like, you know, I'm sitting across from something I could be potentially. And then as you grow in a career, you know, you meet Renee Miles Payne, you meet Dr. Kiki Barnes, you meet
Kiki Barnes, there you go. That's my girl down at Dillon.
No, you meet these women. Well, she's a commissioner now. Like, she's
I know. Yeah, so she way up the ladder now. Yeah, doing her thing. I knew it when she was a Peach People when I was at Fisk. Shout out Fisk, HBCU, and we were playing in the GCAC. And you know, that was one of the. I love that. You know, going down to playing against, you know, Suno Dillon, going down playing against Xavier New Orleans, and those guys, and it was great. And Kiki was always great. Kiki was always one of those decision makers then. Yep. And, you know, and shout out to my boy, Coach Norbert Rome. You know, it was in the league down there, Dillon. As my homeboy, we kind of like thick and thin. You know, he put me on some different things. So, you know, that's good because a lot of times we don't get the opportunity to, as you mentioned, a lot of us, you know, because I was a PWI person, went, you know, and we don't get it. My guy at our school that really embraced what we did was Mr. Walter Johnson. Walter took himself and opened the door. We was our largest minority class that came through the door. So to have him and have someone, like you said, you see yourself out there or you see someone else, you're like, okay, maybe they did it. Maybe I can't do it like them, but let me pick their brains and let me see what's going on, and maybe I will be able to do it. Then all of a sudden, open the door up, and you know, instead of walking through, you kicked it in, you jump right in, you know, and start working right away. So now you find yourself from now Detroit down to Kentucky. Now you're out in DC.
Mm-hmm. Yep. DC, I spent 5 years there. I oversaw basketball for the city. What do we do? Elementary all the way through 12th grade. I oversaw volleyball and tennis and flag football. So, you know, I'm from Michigan. You know, our high school sports play at Michigan State and Central Michigan. And, you know, at my day, Central Michigan, for our championship games. And in DC, they're at high schools. So I'm like, oh no, we got to change this. You know, we went to UDC and went to Howard, and we were at Howard playing our city championship, you know. So I did a lot in those 5 years that I'm proud of because, you know, again, a young girl from Detroit, and now you're in DC, another inner city, but you see kids like you see at home. So you want to have that same impact in that inner city, you know, and give them an experience that they may not ever get. So that was my DC tenure. When I was ready to, you know, kind of step out and take a chance, you know, I applied for a job at Delta College in Michigan. Yep. And then got an interview. I was 8 months pregnant. I went to the interview, like, they're not going to hire me. I'm pregnant. I got the phone call the very next day that said, well, wait, you know, have your baby, and then we'll see you in December. You know,
that's love. Like you say, that's super love, you know, to have something like that, because sometimes we'll get cut down when we say that. They'll look at us like, oh, you know, we don't want to do that. Speaking of proud, that's your girl right there, your auntie, Mrs. Jennifer Taylor, checking in and out. Thank you for checking in tonight on the Pull Up Podcast Show, Miss Taylor. You talking to the one and only Coach Tony on the Pull Up Podcast Show, talking with my girl, Miss Dionne McCollum, talking about the life in HBCU and sports administration, you know, and whatnot. So now you're sitting up there in DC. Now, the funny thing, I like what you just said. How did you recognize that when you got there? Because again, you know, in Chicago, same way, if we play our state championships back in the day, it was downstate at University of Illinois. And they've moved it around a little bit down to Peoria and down to Bloomington and so forth and so on. So as you got to DC, where was the state being played at, and how were you able to affect moving it up on Howard's campus?
So it was playing at Coolidge High School. That was the largest high school in the city at the time. And they had been there for years. And then originally, before we got to Howard, went to UDC first. You know, I got really cool with the one of the assistant ADs there. And he allowed us to come in, and we were able to work out with our city in their state, you know, officers, and had a plan. We did that for 2 years. And then after that, I'm like, we've outgrown UDC, and we were grateful for the time, but just made a phone call, scheduled a meeting with the athletic department at Howard, told them the vision, and we were able to hold volleyball and basketball championships there and it was beautiful. It was beautiful. They're back at Coolidge now, but at that time, you know, with the administration that was in place at Howard, with the coaches that were in place at Howard, they just did so much for us because they saw the vision. They would come out and do community service with us at our free physical days. The basketball teams would come out and just do little things, toss the football around with the kids. The volleyball coach put in a free clinic for our coaches to learn their skills and sharpen their skills as coaches.
Nice.
So it was a great partnership, and it was a great to see because Howard, I mean, many may say is the mecca of HBCUs, and
Exactly.
these kids are around the corner, probably never even been to the arena and got to play on it. You know,
Right.
so it was all about experience and exposure at that point.
Yeah, I mean, and again, you know, you can see that because when you took your feet off the gas and hand out the cookie jar, it went right back to Coolidge. So we can see that, you know, again, that's what's having good people like yourself involved. And we're talking to my girl, Coach Dionne McCollum from Claflin University, with your boy, Coach Tony, on the Pull Up Podcast Show. We're at halftime right now. We're going to go pay some bills with Val. We'll be right back to the show. Val, take it away.
Tony, what would you like to ask Terrence?
Listening to that trailer, man, it was so cool. When you got a chance to get involved, what were your past experiences?
I haven't necessarily done narration and voiceover, but I am a songwriter and performer. Of course, I've done that for a while. And with this project, one, I'm not seasoned enough to know what high 8 tapes are. So I'm just pulling off my experiences with elder people in my life and their stories and try to connect that bridge. So I just tried to do that the best that I could. And I'm happy with how it came about. I'm excited for people to start seeing it and seeing how over these many years it's come full circle, as John said.
Terrence hits on a great point. The spirit of the film is based on the spirit of the music and the times of the 90s. That was important that came across because that was a different frequency of music, you know, back then.
Well,
It was an exciting, challenging time where you felt the birth of a new musical movement was happening.
Ultimately, we actually shot in 13 different locations and had a cast of over 60 people. And then we had this tape, this project that was still in search of an ending. And for 30 years, I've lied and carried this on my resume as a film that I completed. But nobody ever asked me for it. But I'm just grateful for the fact that, yeah. I'm grateful for the fact that Wendell found these and just wrote such a brilliant narration that really pulled everything together and brought it to some peace after all these years of this unfinished project.
Man, welcome back to the third quarter here on the Pull Up Podcast Show with your guy, Coach Tony, and my girl right here, Coach Dionne McCollum. Hey, you see, well, you know, it's halftime, Coach, so you know you come out that locker room, you know, you better get ready to lock up. You know, it's that time. You know, I tell you what, you know, I'm so proud of you, first of all, you know, and I'm so glad I have you on the show tonight because, again, you know, we have a lot of young women who look and wondering, you know, can I do this? Because, you know, the athletic side of the house, especially at a position that you're at, as we're going to get into and talk a little bit about that. You know, a lot of the young women don't aspire to think that they can be athletic directors or even in the compliance side of the house. You know, here in Nashville, I got a big shout out to my girl, Teresa Phillips, who kind of, you know, opened a lot of the doors and stuff that I was doing as I was over at Fisk University, and she moved on to Tennessee State University. And obviously, you know, with Teresa, she went on to become the first Black woman at that time to coach a men's basketball team at the Division I level because of the changes that was going on. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I'm super proud and pumped the roof, man. My flowers hat goes off to you. And looking at now, you've gotten that taste of HBCU as a player, as an undergrad. Now you've gotten that taste of a little bit of the athletic side of the house in DC and all that. where was your next move? Was that at that point that you leave that you head to Claflin then? Or how did we get to Claflin?
No, I went to Delta College first, and I did 5 years at Delta College as the director of athletics. So I was able to sit in that head seat and affect change with the sports we had there. We had soccer, women's soccer, men's, women's basketball, baseball, softball, men's golf. So I was able to, do what I can to affect change there during that time. Little things started bringing in speakers for banquets, just so that they get to see faces and names of people who, can feed into them as well. We national championship soccer team. Love those girls. They were amazing. My final year, we actually had women's soccer, women's basketball, as well as women's softball all win a regional championship and go to the national tournament.
Wow.
So we had accomplished a lot. We saw a lot of kids go on to play at the next level, some at HBCU, some at, we had a gentleman at Eastern Michigan, a young lady at Eastern Michigan. One young lady's down here at Claflin. We have someone at Edward Waters. So they've gone on. Soccer players are all over. We have one out at Utah that's doing amazing things out there. So 5 years, I was able to put my touch on things, even being there during COVID. It was a lot that we had to manipulate to make sure sports continue, because that's their outlet, that's their safe space. And I didn't want COVID to ever shut us down. So we were able to manipulate through COVID and still have success throughout that time. But then, I brought in my final year, we did an HBCU exposure event where we brought in high schools from inner cities across Michigan, let them play on that, because we had a very nice gym at Delta that most JUCOs you wouldn't expect, but on that college course.
I've seen some. I'll play. I mean, Northeast Mississippi. I'm telling you,
exactly that one alone. But, and you walk in, you have, over 16 HBCUs represented right there, because Delta College actually had a transfer agreement with Jackson State. So that's kind of how that event came about, because you wanted to put notice on that you can go to Jackson State and still pay almost in-state tuition out of Michigan by transferring through Delta. And then also to other HBCUs, of course, Claflin was represented, because at that point, I knew I was coming to Claflin. Of course, Kentucky State was represented, Tennessee State, Spelman was represented, North Carolina A&T, again, Jackson State, North Carolina Central. Like, all of these individuals showed up and then some of them were from Saginaw, went to Delta College, and then had gone on to Southern, and were just like, hey, we're at Southern's table. I'm sorry, I didn't know you were here, but it would have helped. Yep, because people, that's where they went to school. A lot of them maybe not were from Michigan. They relocated and moved up north, so they had those backgrounds, and we just wanted to tap into it. But
that is awesome. So, and to let everybody know, where exactly is Claflin University?
Claflin is in Orangeburg, South Carolina.
Way down there.
It is about 40 minutes south of Columbia, and about 40 minutes right before you get to Charleston. So right in the middle.
I know. For some of y'all that don't know, she's right down the street from Benedict University. She's right there from South Carolina State, Allen University. She around as we say, she in the cut.
But we are the oldest HBCU in the state of South Carolina. Okay.
There you go. There you go. Let them know. Let them, before they say something, y'all better recognize.
Yes. But yeah, we actually share a gate with South Carolina State. And I know that's rare, but it's kind of like Allen and Benedict are across the street. Yeah, we're separated by the gate, and they just walk through the gate and, pretty much share a campus.
That's funny. I see that, perfect example down in the Triangle. If you've ever been down in the Triangle with Morehouse and CAU and Spelman, and they share the walkway in the Triangle, and I noticed that, back in the day as our HBCUs was built, not a lot of PWIs have situations like that. Did you see the benefit of that? Or do you see the benefit of that where maybe some kids come down or they're at Benedict and maybe not happy and they want to come over, or vice versa, they transfer out? Or do you guys work real close with one another?
No, not like that. Like, Benedict is one of our biggest rivals, So most times, if we're beating up on Benedict, we don't want they kids to come play for us.
Right, I get you.
But no, our coaches are very close. They work well together. You know, that Benedict game is probably one of the highlighted games of the year. Both gyms, no matter which place it's at, it's sold out. That's probably one of the games you want to see to really understand the positive vibe of a HBCU game versus rivals. You know, like it's a beautiful sight.
And now Allen has stepped up. I think they're D2 now, right?
They are D2 now. Yes, they're in the SISD.
Right. When we played again, they were NAI. When I was at Fifth, they played with us. So at that time, I think Morris College is not too far down the street as well, ain't it?
Yes. Yep. Morris isn't far at all.
Yeah, I tell you, we tried that little cut, go down and see Voorhees. Woo, way out in something. Man, it was great. Woo, hey, man, I know exactly. So the big question that I've got to ask, you've gone through these things, you've seen DC, you've been here and there. Now that you're at Claflin and you're at that D2 in the CIAA conference and all that, and it is, for those that don't know the CIAA conference tournament, it's like the early stages of the Freak League back in the day, but in the sports-related side of the house. I got a chance to go down with my boy from Carolina, James Ward, send you a super shout-out. Got me down to the CIAA one year, and it was just phenomenal. I had never experienced something like that, and it was awesome. But as in AD and compliance, how did you get the opportunity to wear both hats on both sides of the house?
I think my background as being a director of athletics still allows me to have that senior leadership role as the associate athletic director, because sometimes compliance can be looked at as entry level. But at this level, I am an office of one. So there's no entry level there. I had a background in rules at the JUCO level. So it kind of made it an easier transition because I knew what kids needed leaving JUCO to get to that NCAA level. So then when I got here, it was just like, okay, now this is my new focus. And I kind of had to forget the JUCO stuff. But that experience being the director of athletics at Delta College, also with the coaching background, it gave me an opportunity to come in at a senior administration level while still being able to manage compliance.
Oh, man, that's awesome. And then the good thing about, like you just said, you've already gone through that JUCO route. So, hey, you don't want to be back there. That's find your way to the JUCO. Then now you in big boy, big girl territory now to making sure that you got the opportunity to stay. So now we're looking at compliance, looking at all that. And those rules are always that are constantly changing. Do you see issues that you're having at the HBCU level that you see at a lot of the majority of the major schools?
Absolutely not. Resources is always the number one thing at the HBCU level. We may not have as many resources as a predominantly white institution at the Division I level or as a NCAA Division I level at all. So resources is major. And a lot of times at this level, you have to be able to find the right fit because working well, long hours, weekends, travel, you're with everyone for so much time of your life. It's like, okay, it has to be the right fit because you have to be on the same common ground and goal. And that's just a grind. The grind's a little bit, at the HBCU level, you really, really grind, you really get your hands dirty. So we're there, we're sport administrators, even though I'm doing compliance. I also offer women's basketball and our baseball team and cross country. So you travel with them teams as well. So it's all about just having to balance it all out. I am definitely OCD. So my compliance is going to be on point. Ain't no hiccups. The NCAA walk in and said, let me see your paperwork and your files. Oh, right. It's no sweat. My checklist is going to make sure we're okay. But it gives me to be comfortable to have to go out to my sports responsibilities and travel and maybe be gone for a week because I know at home is taken care of.
Well, man, and trust me, I called her the other day and she was sitting at a baseball game. So I mean, and that's nice. And again, that goes back not so much, Coach, of where you are now. That goes back to everything that was put in the gumbo pot as you was coming up. We had a little this and a little that from the gumbo pot, and you've been able to stir those coaches and those people that you looked up to and got you prepared for that and stuff of that nature, and been able to give back to all that. So when you're doing these fairs and have the school fairs, and you guys are there, do you see a lot of young African American women that are coming up? Because and the reason why I asked that question, I'm at the high school, Coach Tony High School now here in Nashville, and we had career day, and a young lady came up and wanted to shadow me for about 2 weeks or so during basketball season. I thought that was phenomenal. And then I go to ask her, what does she want to be? And she looked at me, and Coach, she said, I want to be a GM of an NBA team one day. I was blown out of the water. You know, I'm thinking she may say coaching or going to this. No, I want to be the GM at that level. So I'm like, wow. And so, you know, as he stuck with me for those 2 weeks, I tried to give her everything she could learn and understand on the ground level of, okay, here's how basketball X's and O's is done. Here's how practice look. Here's how riding on the bus. Here's X, Y, and Z, so she can get a chance to understand that. Do you get a lot of the students that are at Claflin looking to go in that career path that come in and want to shadow you and do things?
Yeah, I've actually had a couple. Some are athletes, some are not. Just, hey, can I do my internship hours with you? Hey, can I shadow you for a couple of weeks to see? Now, my shadow is a little bit different because in compliance, it's a lot of sensitive documents in there. So I have to be selective on, you know,
yes,
what they see, you know, but you get to see the meetings, the committees, you get to see how I put folders together, what's electronic, what's not electronic, you know, so you have a lot of kids who want it. I'm lucky enough, there are organizations now like Women Leaders in Sports. It used to be Women Leaders in College Sports, but now with GM over Las Vegas Aces, a woman GM over the Raiders, you still have to find room to celebrate those women as well. So it's now Women Leaders in Sports. And like the young lady you met, that's something she needs to go to every year, because you talk about going to a convention, seeing 2,500 women all in your field in different aspects. You know, it's beautiful. And you leave there after 3 days, think you can conquer the world because you're sitting at a table with Alfreda Goff or D. Todd. You get to shake hands and have conversations with Dr. Christine Kelly. You know, these are women you grow up looking and saying, wow, you know, like I'm sitting across from you, you know, I get to interact with you, you know. I think at my last one, I got to sit down with the NCAA, the young lady over NCAA leadership, and just pick her brain, you know, like, well, I'm considered aggressive at times. And she's like, so what? So was I. You know, that's how we survive.
Okay.
You know? But sometimes you need to hear that, you know. I look across the room, you have Jennifer Williams, who's from Detroit, who played at North Carolina, who's now the head of USA basketball from Detroit. You know, it's like, these are the same women that are in the room with you that we from the same city and didn't cross paths until we both were administrators, you know. But now I can text her and say, hey, sis, you know, I got a question, or, you know, can you point me in the right direction for that? You know, so it's a small world once you get your foot in that door, and all you got to do is have the door cracked. Once it's cracked, be surprised at the opportunities out there for us.
Man, I tell you, we are talking to my girl, Coach Dionne McCollum of Claflin, the Claflin University, as a matter of speaking. We're going to take our last break of the day. You're talking to Coach Tony on the Pull Up Podcast show. Val, take us our last break, pay these last bill, and we'll be right back.
Super Bowl. Do you think that Usher was the best, or was it Beyonce, or was it Kira and J-Lo? Who had the best performance?
Oh gosh. So I never say who's the best or who's the worst. I think in each of their own ways, everyone is, to get to play the Super Bowl as an artist in itself is fantastic. I think Usher went through his discography perfectly. Having her come on stage and play the guitar is such a special thing. I think when artists get to invite other artists on stage, it's such a great moment to like share the love and share it. And so every artist, like Coldplay bringing Beyonce and Bruno Mars, he didn't have to. Shakira and J-Lo, right? I think it's really important, instead of like, who's the best, getting to realize you could do this moment by yourself and it would still be iconically as good. Usher could have been just himself, like Rihanna did just herself. Right. But he chose, especially to bring female artists on the stage. It's just beautiful, beautiful.
Man, welcome back to the Pull Up Podcast Show with your boy, Coach Tony. Man, sitting here celebrating Women in History for the month of March. Couldn't ask a better guest to help me close out the month celebrating women in history with none other than Coach Dionne McCollum at the Claflin University. Now, Coach, we've been on the show the last few weeks talking about a lot of hot topics, a lot of stuff that's been in the news, which has mainly been around the NIL piece. And we know that has really affected the major Division I program. For those that are watching, we've got kids, nephews, nieces, and things of that nature. A lot of the changes that are coming about, you and I talked about this as well, starting August of this year. One of the big changes since the courts found against University of Tennessee and West Virginia, they found in their favor, the NCAA kind of got a little upset. So starting this August at the Division I level, any athletes in any sport can transfer at any time they want, which is going to be completely insane. And they are also working to bring that down to also the Division II level. How is that going to affect you guys and what you do in terms of athletics at Claflin?
You know, honestly, it scares me how this is going to affect college athletics, because it can become a free-for-all, and we get away from the student athlete to only focus on the athlete because I don't like it here, or I'm not getting playing time here, or I can go make more money here with NILs than I can here. So this was going to give kids the freedom to just say, I don't want to work. I go over here. You know, I don't want to work this hard, so I can go over here and, you know, be the star, you know. So for Claflin, if this passes to go D2A in April, then I'm a little nervous, only because I'm nervous for my coaches. Right. Because I know how they feel about their athletes and these programs and what they're trying to accomplish and their overall goal and vision. And the kids can just go and leave. That makes it hard to really build your program and have the success you can when you get to feed in the kids for a couple of years. So that's my first thing. My next thing is how it affects institution. What about retention rates and graduation rates and financial aid? If these kids are just up and leaving, that hurts the institution as a whole. And not many people understand how much athletics affects the overall institution. So when Claflin is ranked right now top 10 HBCUs, if this rule passes and these kids can just up and leave, athletics can hurt that number, because are they finishing their class? Are they withdrawn from all their classes? How many credits are they transferring in? Are they meeting progress towards degree? That's all things you have to look at when this rule is put into place. And then who's going to talk to these kids and tell them the rules behind it? Yes, right. It's a free-for-all. You can up and go. But are you academically eligible to go play somewhere else? Or am I going to drop out as soon as the season ends in March and not finish the semester? So I'm going to go transfer here. Like, you can't transfer in the middle of the semester. So those grades are going to count for a full-time semester, which means when you leave, you could be ineligible because you're not meeting. Yes, it's a free-for-all, but you got to be academically and athletic eligible to be able to transfer and play right away. You know,
and I'm gonna add another level to that. I'm gonna go all the way back to as you guys started. And I try to tell kids, I just had to have this actually just happened to one of my kids that played for me. And that is starting at that JUCO level. I tell kids all the time, once you come into college, the academic clock does not stop. Your athletic clock does, but the academic side doesn't. So this young man ended up playing in a JUCO transfer, D1 transfer, NI. Then he looked and said, wait a minute, I still got 2 years to play. But then when he went to that fourth school, the school said, yes, but son, you've been carrying a great GPA of 3.5, 3.4, 3.5. And because you now have 128 hours, we can't keep you. If we even wanted to keep you because you have academically qualified to walk the stage. So unfortunately, on senior night, we're going to call your name. And the mom was like, wow. So she was kind of, thrown back about it. And they called me and I verified. I said, yeah, unfortunately, this is the conversation I have. So now looking at this NIL, as you were talking yesterday, you're sitting up where a lot of coaches are having to currently babysit kids from year to year. You are now going to have to babysit kids from week to week because, as you just mentioned, if I don't like it, and if McCollum ain't getting enough playing time, and she really didn't like the coach anyway, and I'm about to make a move, and you my girl, I'm probably gonna take you with me. So I don't think the NCAA, when they saw what they were doing, this not only affects one athlete, but one athlete could take a handful of kids away from a program and snap of a finger. That's going to be insane.
But the thing is, they'll take them all away and they'll all enter the portal, and then they'll get stuck. Because, the girl who took them all away may go have a school to go to, but the 5 girls you took away, that may have been their only opportunity. They're not going to get the big NIL deal. They're not going to be able to say, well, I want to go play at Tennessee, or Fayetteville just won the CIAA. I want to go play at Fayetteville. No, that coach already built in his program.
Right.
You don't need to insert yourself. And that's people don't
realize. And
people never get out. People still haven't got out from last year. The portal is insane right now. People won't get out. And that's the hard part about it, because I'm taking a leap of faith by going into that portal. But what if that coach don't want me no more? Or what if I didn't get enough playing time or stats in my first 2 years to even be recruited out of the portal because I don't have the stats? And I think it needs to be no more support, even if it's at home in the administration, really to explain these things. If you want to leave Claflin, I'm not going to hold you. I'm not petty. I'm not going to hold a grudge, but I'm going to explain to you what's going to happen before you leave. And that's where I differ, because you're going to know, are you going to be eligible? Do you have the grades? Let's count your semesters. Okay, well, you didn't get the COVID year, so you didn't get 10 semesters. And baby, you had semester 10. So you got a year left. But who's going to file that waiver? That means they got to get you out the portal, do extra work for a waiver. And most compliance officers why you get this kid? This kid that had no strings attached. They got a 3.8, it's the easier path. And that's how kids get lost in the portal.
Again, it's the knowledge. I think that what you're saying, I think you are teaching right now more than anything. And I think that's the piece that no one, and I don't care, like you said, whether you're an HB or PWI, no one explains that to the athletes when they get hurt. I hope y'all just heard that. People are still sitting in the portal. And I know that, Coach, because I'm trying to get a lot of my athletes signed. And unfortunately, the young men that are and young women that are coming out of high school class of 24, 25 and beyond, again, that's why JUCO is making that great opportunity. Some NAI schools, and now if you can play, they are simply going to find you. And speaking of playing, you're right down the street from Dawn Staley and the girl down in South Kakalaka. What do you think about going on with this March Madness tournament? How your brackets looking?
So you know what? My brackets died a long time ago. I can't even lie. I'm a Michigan girl, but I did not expect Oakland to upset Kentucky. But a lot of the upset, it's just been March Madness is my Super Bowl. This is when I get to see athletics and just you see all the kids that have the heart. Everybody that's going to lay it on the floor and give you everything they have. That Iowa State and Stanford game last night.
Oh, that was a game. The Texas A&M in Houston was one of the best games I think I've ever seen.
They played this all year. So this game was everything, And March Madness is, just our girls get to go see Dawn and then practice early on. As a Division II, you get to go sit in there and hear her coach and get that knowledge, not even being one of her athletes,
That's phenomenal. I mean, kids don't get a chance to get a chance to see that's phenomenal. But your brackets would have been looking good. The only thing that you had missing out?
What was that?
Listening to Coach Tony. If you listen to Coach Tony, and for promotional purposes only, I was handing out prizes last week. On the men's side, I'm gonna have you laughing. On the men's side of the house, first day, I went 14 out of 16 first day, 26 out of 32 for the weekend. But here was the cool part. On the women's bracket first day, I went 16 for 16 first day.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Didn't miss out of the game. And had both the upsets with my girls, MTSU, Middle Tennessee State University.
Bias.
Had them on the upset. And so it's just been absolutely great. But, it's a blessing that, again, having someone like you in a position that you're in, and get an opportunity to have these kids sit in front of a Don Staley and listen. Like my guys go crazy because I'm all Big Ten, by the way. I love the SEC. I'm big time Big Ten. Obviously with the line now, and I do have my line now on the men's side of the house. I got Illinois playing against Houston in one bracket, and I got the line now in Purdue, just being biased, in another bracket. But on the women's side of the house, this is the interesting setup from my perspective. You tell me if I'm right or I'm wrong. On one side of the bracket, you have a situation where LSU knocks off Iowa for the national championship last year. Mm-hmm. But LSU is not playing as well as they did last year. There's some internal in-house things going on. And now Caitlin Clark is rolling like an 18-wheeler down 65, right? So she's doing her thing. So that matchup comes back again. I think Iowa gets them on that. On the other side of the coin, no one's going to touch South Carolina. I don't even need to look at the other bracket. Don's got them rolling. Yeah. And now Don in her rearview mirror is saying the team that put us out last year is Iowa. Yeah. So we definitely want in both number one seeds. Now here's the catch-22. No one's looking at my girls out there in Kakalaki.
They're not. They're
Juju
not.
Watkins and company, because Juju was a former player.
Notre Dame is a problem. Like,
Notre Dame is a problem
out here.
Ooh, yeah, her dog will be but Juju is a problem. So my question to you is, the women bracket over the last few years usually end up kind of chalky. You know, the men can kind of different story. But who do you have in the championship game of the women's bracket?
Of course, South Carolina.
I figured that.
They're going to get there. They're going to get there. But who? I don't know, because the other teams are all right here. I feel like LSU, Iowa probably stands out from everyone else. But like I said, like UCLA, USC, Stanford, they can show up any given night and give you a problem. At LSU, Middle Tennessee State had LSU on the ropes yesterday.
Yeah, they did.
So any given night is anybody's game.
And my girl from Texas is big.
Yes. Yes. But no, I don't know. Whoever get there going to have a problem with South Carolina. That's all I can say. They're going to have a problem.
So you got Don running the table going, 35-0? I think it would be a 36, something like that, when it's all said and done.
Yep.
So, well, hey, y'all heard it from my girl, Coach Dionne McCollum. She just told y'all right down the street from where she at right now, Dawn Staley and them girls taking the championship. And me and her going to have to talk eye to eye in a few weeks, because, you know, I'm thinking that the Midwestern folks, I'm thinking that it's going to be a game. I think that you're going to see one of the best games, and I probably don't want anybody to win. I'd love to see a triple overtime, to tell the truth, to really know. You know, I like to say of old school Muhammad Ali and the old rope-a-dope, knock me out. You're going to get me and all that. So that is absolutely wonderful. Coach, I just appreciate your time tonight, the knowledge and the jewels and the nuggets that you dropped on the fans tonight. And hopefully they were listening. Thanks for checking in with me. I promise.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. It is absolutely night. We have the one and only Coach Dionne McCollum from the Claflin University. I will see you later on the other side.
Good night.
Good night. Well, I tell you, it's been great. Man, oh, man, oh, man. Another hit show. By the way, check in. You want your athletes to know a little bit more about the NIL process and how they can be recruited, how we match brands with athletes to make sure everyone's getting an opportunity. The Rise, NIL, go to therisenil.com for more information. And that is with your boy, Coach Tony. Also, make sure that you tune in. When I say tune in, you continue to tune in to Monday Night Show with your guy, Coach Tony, on the Pull Up Podcast Show. And, we're going to continue to bring you guests like this. Thank you for helping us celebrate the Women's History Month as we roll out the month with Coach. And then tomorrow, make sure that you're on tap with us tomorrow on Interludes Extra Talk on Tuesday with JC as we talk about her book, and a few other things on Interludes Talk on Tuesday. And we're going to review a couple of movies and talk entertainment with me and my girl, Val, the voice, my co-host, and it's going to be a knockout. By the way, and the last thing I want to give you on a note, Talk on Tuesdays is represented by every single week, 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time. And by the way, as we tell everybody, don't meet us to Talk on Tuesday. Meet us to Talk on Tuesday, so we make sure that you get the information. Make sure you like the show. Make sure you share the show. And more important, make sure you subscribe to the show. Go on, as the show is on YouTube, on IG, on LinkedIn, all across all social media platforms. This has been your boy, the one and only Coach Tony, on the Pull Up Podcast Show. We appreciate it. But in the words of my boy, peace and amen.
It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. Pull up, pull up. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. It's the Pull Up Podcast. Pull up, pull up. Bounce the voice and Coach Tony, you know. It's the Pull Up Podcast. Show. I said bounce the voice and Coach Tony, you know. It's the Pull Up Podcast. Show.